originate. So that's definitely let's say a downside in the methodology, that because it is so high touch that the moment the lockdown was applied, you could not originate. Part of it was because the government intervened and said, "Ki collections can't happen, this cannot happen, that cannot happen." Oops. So that was a sort of a bit of a challenge for the microfinance sector, but they overcame it by keeping in touch with people. So every field officer was told to keep calling clients, to keep ensuring that they are in touch with clients, just asking about their how they are doing and so on, managing, saying that things will improve and so on. Now, where things could have gone a little differently was that if about 30-35% of the portfolio, and Kamal can come on this, of a typical microfinance institution would be the Kirana stores. Yeah. So they anyway needed more money because actually sales picked up, people started hoarding, and probably if there was a mechanism to reach out to them, they would have gladly taken a repeat loan. So definitely, in some senses, the government did not, segment and say, okay, you can take repayments from borrowers who are willing to repay. There was a total clampdown, and because of which nobody could venture out. So there was a core hit on the microfinance methodology, and because of this, to some extent, we will see that microfinance will start drawing lessons from digital lenders, just as digital lenders should draw lessons from microfinance, because there is a connect, probably as we say, a phygital model where there is some physical and some digital is what's needed in the Indian market. If in some senses, and this is a bit of a stretch comparison, if you look at the Kenyan market, because it's a market that is a little evolved when it comes to digital, as far as we are concerned. Let me put a disclaimer that it's a different market, because Kenya doesn't have the microfinance outreach that India has, doesn't have the rural, outreach that India has. So with all these disclaimers, I would just say that in the past 5-7 years, ever since digital lenders have come in, if you look at small ticket size loans, 91% of the loans by volume are digital loans. 57% of the loans by value are digital loans. Yeah, 77% of the borrowers we talk to had taken a digital loan or the other, and each digital borrower had an average of 3 loans. So there is a lot for microfinance to learn from in terms of remote origination, at least for a segment of clients that is on the phone, that is tech savvy. Because if you look at the Kenyan market, typically we are talking about 25 to 44-year-olds who are using this. So microfinance should really look at this segment and say, okay, so what can we do which is over the top, given that after demonetization, this happened and happened fairly in quick succession, I would say. And similarly, what can digital lending learn from microfinance, given that it's a 2,40,000, 50,000 crore industry? That's just phenomenal. You look at a basic methodology, a simple methodology that has grown to this level. I think that's very phenomenal. So I'll rest there, Pranay, hand it over back to you.
That's very interesting angle that you have said, and I'm sure that Kamal would love to elaborate on the angle that you have mentioned about moving more and more towards digital. I mean, that's the future. Kamal, I'm sure that you would have different aspects, and you can add a lot of value in here. So over to you.
So thanks, Pranay, and thanks, Manoj, for the insights. In fact, I would say that there is a huge amount of positive change has happened in the microfinance industry. The way when I look back 2008, when I was part of the rural microfinance launch team of Fullerton, and when I look today, so there is a huge amount of difference. All the corners of the microfinance has grown. And now with since 2013, when the digital fintech companies, entered in India, and in a very short span of time, I think India has the second largest in numbers fintechs in India. I think more than 1,100 in all the space, be it a lending, be it a payment solution and others. The another good thing that where as a country in terms of the necessary infrastructure which is required to digitize, the government has taken good initiative, and the public, the people have also, respond positively. So the adoption rate of technology is 90+%, which is I think the second highest or maybe the highest in the world. So that's a good news for the sector, to move towards digitization. The other important part is that the previous events, like be it a Andhra event, be it a demonetization, then later on some fiscal taxation changes, and now this pandemic, which we have never experienced, in our lifetime, because it's an economic risk. So I can say that all these event risk has given some learnings which were not working earlier. We did something new, started working. So the fintech companies can act as a sanjeevni for the microfinance business, because if we see the origination part of microfinance, MFI has a typical, business model, formation of group, KYC validation, collection of documents. So so this has a you can say a heavy human touch, because without meeting clients, especially in rural when people are not tech savvy and not well educated, you need to interact physically. But at the same time, I think the digitization has also happened. Like people are using, a handheld device to scan the documents, then doing bureau checks on the spot, and then transferring those scan images, to their central office for the approval of the groups and all that. So I say that the origination part of, I think already there are people who are very successful in terms of doing KYC checks, biometric checks, and validation of their basic KYC parameter. Plus, there is a lot of integration of MIS has also happened on the back end that helped, MFI industry to create digital data. And data is going to be the fuel. I think India will be after China, the second country who will be known for data in next 5 years. And with the help of data,